What is happening, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Comic Book Weekly. I am Mike Spider Slayer from the YouTube channel Comic Book Corner 2.0. And tonight I have only Brant Fowler from Only a Good Comics. Unfortunately, Kat cannot be here today because she's been suffering from some migraine headaches for the past couple days, and she was thinking about going on, but then she said she was going to pass tonight. So you just got us. And if you don't like that, then that's too bad because that's all you got.
That's all you got.
Exactly. But we still have a pretty good show packed here. We got some great comics that came out this week. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about this little bit of news that we have, and then we'll get into the big news topic. I think, did it drop today, Brant?
I don't know if it was today, but I think it was recent.
Because I didn't even hear about it all week until you shared it.
Yeah, like the writer that there's a piece on the writer's website that talks about it, and that was actually posted today, I think. So it has to be recent news.
Okay. So. Gotcha. Yeah, that was pretty exciting when you shared that. I'm like, what the hell is that? But we'll talk about that in a little bit. So you want to kick off the news? I mean, there's not very much to be had here, but we can discuss it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you said, we've only got a handful of topics this week, but we will start with a new group of X-Men coming in. I believe it's issue 15, if I'm not mistaken. 16, issue 16 in May, where these this new team of X-Men called the 3K X-Men show up, and there's not much information about them. Only the creative team, and we get an image of them, which I'll screen share here. Give me a second.
Yeah. So Jed McKay is coming out with his own X-Men now.
Yeah, so this is the team here of the 3K X-Men, who looks pretty
five or six of them. No, there's
1,
5.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, there's this guy up here
6.
too. Yeah. So let me try to close some of these ads. Maybe let's see, open image and new. Let me switch that and I'll just share the image so we're not getting all those stupid ads. There we go. There's a better look.
So there's our dude team with this suit, man.
I don't know.
He's like wearing like this raincoat suit, you know?
Yeah. It's like, I don't know. All we got was, let's see if I can find some. There's no information here.
There's nothing.
Very little. Yeah. It just has the creative team. Says when it's on sale. It says stay tuned for more information. And that's it. So, yeah.
I mean, I don't know, man. I'm based off of this image. The coolest one to me is the female there on the right with the red and black suit. I think she looks the coolest. Yeah.
Yes, she looks the coolest. This dude looks kind of interesting, but I don't know.
What is he, Lava Man? Like, what is?
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
And what is the dude
lava balls?
Man, like, what is he? Is he like Major X, like son or something? Like, what is that? It's just so silly.
And it's like with the name 3K, that puts me in mind of like 2099. So maybe this is like the next level of X-Men. Maybe they're from the future. I don't know.
Oh man,
I'm just speculating.
Yeah. It's just weird though, because it's like we see the new X-Men pop out of Gail Simone's thing, and now we got these X-Men here, and it's kind of like, where are we going with all these new characters, man? So I don't know. I'm really unsure.
This one in the center, the face and hairstyle and everything looks like Cyclops' other brother. I don't know if that's who it is, but it looks kind of like him. I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
He looks like he can create like a black hole or something.
Yeah, so that would be different. So I don't know. But again, I mean, obviously this isn't Avengers, but it is another team to come in to maybe fight the current team. It's a Jed McKay kind of staple.
Yeah,
but X-Men has been better than Avengers, especially of late. So hopefully it'll be more than that.
Yeah, and the other one is like wearing pink. She looks like
Yeah.
a Iceman character or something.
Yeah, or like stone or something like that. Something
Yeah,
similar.
maybe that's more like it because if you look on the face, it kind of looks like a stone, maybe. I don't
Yeah.
know, man. It's
I
weird.
don't know either. Debbie says this new team sounds so dumb. I mean,
Look,
all we got is pictures right now.
yeah,
We
there
don't know
is
anything about them.
nothing. There's no names. There's no anything.
Yeah.
So maybe
So
we'll find out next week.
yeah, we'll see. All right. So next up we have Mr. Terrific gets a year one series, which I think is kind of interesting because I don't know a whole lot about the character. Um, current version of him is pretty stiff. So hopefully there's a little bit more personality when we go back to year one, but who knows?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't know very much about the character either. I think he's kind of cool, but I wish I would know more about him. And this would
Yeah.
probably be the perfect series for that, right? So,
Yeah.
as long as it's written well, it's got some decent artwork, I'll definitely give it a try.
Yeah, this is written by somebody named Al Letson, who I'm not familiar with. And art by Valentine Delandro. So I'm not familiar with the creative team at all. I don't know what
Mm,
else they've done,
right.
but yeah, it still looks interesting. And his background, like he's an Olympic athlete, he's a genius. I mean, it's a pretty good, power combination there, power and skills and everything. So I would like to learn more.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I got a comment here. It says, did you hear that Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips are releasing a new criminal graphic novel in time for the TV show?
I had not heard that.
Me
I
either.
had forgotten about the TV show actually. Um, I've never read Criminal, so that's one
That
of the
was the
things that I have
series where
not.
the guy was like, was he like on drugs and he wore like the red and black suit and it was like a shotgun or whatever he is that I totally, I think that might have been it if I remember correctly. It's been a long
Okay.
time already, but I do remember if that was it. And he was like, I don't know, he's like tripping or he was mentally ill or something like that. It was like really, really good.
Yeah,
So
that came out like almost 20 years ago. I can't believe it's been that long, but yeah, that's crazy. The original one anyway.
the original one,
Yeah, 2006.
wow, damn,
So
that
yeah,
is a long time ago.
right. But I mean, it went for 10 issues, and then I think they've done some other stuff since then. So there's been more
Gotcha.
recent stuff, but yeah.
Oh, the one that I was talking about was Kill or Be Killed.
Yeah, I did
Okay.
read Kill or Be Killed. That's why I was like, wait a minute, that sounds a lot like the other one. But
Y
I don't think I ever read Criminal, so I don't
right.
know anything about it really. So
Still cool though. Ed Brubaker's awesome, man. That's good
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, absolutely. I saw another comment I wanted to. Gumbo Hot Pizza. Oops, I clicked the wrong one. Said Umbrella Academy is going to sweeps the comic cover of the week. I did. That was one story I did see that Umbrella Academy is coming out with a new comic that features some characters from season 3 of the show. I
Uh-huh.
like the TV show. I don't
Uh-huh.
really read the comics, but the TV show is pretty good.
Yeah,
I haven't
I
finished.
never got into it. I think I got like 1, 2 episodes in, and then I just for some reason stopped. I don't even know why.
Yeah, it's for me, it was a little slow to get into, but I don't know. Lisa and I really like the show. So season 3 we haven't finished yet. I think we've only watched 1 or 2 episodes of it, but I the characters they're premiering in the comic book I am familiar with. It's like an alternate version of their team. So
Mhm.
that's kind of interesting. So
No, that's
did want
cool.
to mention that. Yeah. Oh, this isn't. I did not see this news piece. I read this series. Mike Manhattan says an Image comic called Knights is getting an animated series. I'm a big fan of the series. It's about this vampire girl that it's like I forget when it takes place, like the 90s or something, but like the world is changing. There's all these supernatural characters. When people die, they stay around as ghosts, and like this little friend group has a ghost, a vampire, and a normal kid,
Uh-huh.
and this vampire is like prophesied to destroy the world and all this stuff, but it's really a character story. And it's about these group of people, like how they interact with each other and all that stuff. So it's I like the series, so I'm
That's cool.
happy to hear it's getting an animated series. So that's cool. All right, let's see. All right, we got one more story before we get to our main topic, which is Ultimate Sabretooth is coming. So this is from solicitations for May, and it's just issue 5, I think, of Ultimate Wolverine. We're getting the ultimate version of Sabretooth. So
Oh, I didn't even click on this story to see.
yeah, so there's some other stuff about the Ultimate Universe and everything
Oh,
there as well.
there's one says Ultimate Peter Parker's officially mentoring his son as
Yeah.
Spider-Man. The new Ultimate
Yeah.
Sabretooth is coming, and more revealed in Marvel's May 25 Ultimate Universe solicitations. Oh,
Yeah,
wow,
so
that's a cool picture.
Yeah, Richard Parker's going to be in the black suit.
Yeah,
So that's kind of cool.
that's
Let
awesome.
me which picture are you talking about? I'll try to share it.
Well, it doesn't. It just shows like Sabretooth's claws over Wolverine's mask,
Oh yeah.
and it's all bloody and everything.
Yeah.
I was trying to see if I can come across anything else. They show the Ultimates issue 12. Right, yeah. And then Ultimate Spider-Man issue 17.
There's that image for you.
Yeah, that one. See, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's the full cover.
Yeah, that's a full thing
So
right
that's
there.
pretty cool.
Yep. So that's cool. But Ultimate Spider-Man issue 17, they got the cover of that. And it has the Green Goblin mask like on the ground. And then there's a reflection of Harry or Norman.
Yeah.
Harry, right?
Let's see. Let me zoom in. That might be Norman.
Right? It looks
a little
older. Yeah.
Interesting.
So you got that going on. So yeah, man, there's some good stuff here coming out with this. And then you got Ultimate X-Men. There's that. And yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, so I think it's cool though. Spider-Man and Son versus the Sinister Six is what we got to look forward to. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. That is cool.
All right, so the last news piece is our main topic, which is the original Gwen Stacy to return as Dark Gwenpool. Now, at first we were like, are these two different characters? Because it looked like Dark Gwenpool was just this, other version of Gwenpool from another reality and all that stuff. But the writer Kevin Scott, who's writing this, shortly after this news piece came out, wrote an article on his website confirming that this is actually the original Gwen Stacy back from the dead, and she's, as the solicitation says, here to slay. So the original Gwen Stacy brought back from the dead and is now some version of Gwenpool in like this dark, Weapon X kind of thing. So
yeah, she's like infused with like Weapon X materials and things like that. And I was just kind of like, what? I was like, how does this even happen and why is it? And then when you read the article more, Spider-Man's going to be teaming up with the good Gwenpool to try to stop the dark Deadpool or Gwenpool, and Kate Bishop is going to be in it, and Jeff the Landshark is going to be in it as well. So take that for what it's worth to you.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds, I mean, if you're not a Deadpool fan or a Gwenpool fan, I get it. Don't pick it up. But, I actually like Gwenpool. I think she's fun. The original Gwenpool. And this sounds interesting. You put in Kate Bishop and Jeff in there as well, and I'm on board for this. I don't know what to expect from Dark Gwenpool and what's going to happen with Gwen Stacy and everything, but I'm definitely going to check it out because it sounds like a fun time at least. So
yeah, do you want to bring up the article and show the images from the guy's website?
Yeah,
because there was multiple covers for it.
Yeah. All right, so this is
see it.
This is Kevin Scott's website, and there's like the main image we use for the thumb. Let me scroll down a little bit. Yeah, there's
there you go.
The one cover.
Like that's a cool ass cover right there. Like her slicing up all these characters here, and who are those characters? They look like maybe something from the future, right? I mean,
Yeah, or like some version of like Shield that almost looks like a Shield uniform.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly. And
interesting.
then
And we
she's
got the
got one claw.
oh yeah, that's interesting. Like the Deadpool from the movie,
Right.
right?
Yeah. And then you got
There's that
that's a
Gwenpool.
variant cover. And then here the
There's
scene.
there's she's making good use of that claw right there.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I mean, it looks pretty cool. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
lie. The design is pretty neat. And that was the
yeah,
original teaser that we got from it.
right. So I think
So,
it looks pretty cool, man. I know this is not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but yeah, I'm in for it. So check
and then
that out for
obviously,
sure.
I mean, she's gonna be a character somewhere. Like
Yeah,
it's a Spider-Man. Obviously, it's attached to Spider-Man because it's Gwen. And then, where is she gonna fit in from the universe from there, you know?
yeah, exactly.
So that's
It's
interesting. But yeah, how that whole thing gets started will be cool. But I like Kate Bishop, so to have her in a book again, I think is will be fun.
yeah. This is funny. Trev the gamer in comics says I'm definitely not going to pick it up, and then after we showed all that, I'm just going to pick it up. I changed my mind. I'm going to pick it up just to see how bad it is. That's hilarious.
When does it come out?
So
May?
yeah, probably. Let me see. That's when all this other stuff is coming out. So I assume this is from solicits. Where's the does it give it? Yeah, May. Yeah, it just says May 2025. So sometime in May.
All
So
right. That's kind of cool. Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's different. It's like we have a Gwenpool, so now you have a dark Gwenpool. I mean, is it copying already an idea and you're making it or evil? Yeah, but I think it could be fun. Like I think you're going to get a character that maybe people want to see if they don't like the jokey and silly Gwenpool, right? So they're going to
yeah,
want to see an evil version of that. And
yeah,
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. She's going to be twice as badass. And can the original Gwenpool take her on?
yeah. And what's this going to do to Peter's psyche too? I think that's going to be the more
Yeah.
interesting thing to follow. I mean, you're going to have a lot of action. Looks like a lot of bloody, gory action, which is it's Deadpool kind of character, so that makes sense.
But I'm
Um,
curious, like, who brings her back? Like,
yeah,
who is it that sits there and says, "Oh, let me dig up Gwen Stacy and make her into this Weapon X type of character?" Like, I just think it's so weird. Like, I don't know. Let me get back at Spider-Man. Like, she's in a mask anyway. Like, can you really tell who she is? Like, I don't know.
right. Yeah, exactly. I would say at first he's not going to know who it is, and then he's going to find out later, and it's going to mess him up. So yeah, it's going
Yeah.
to be interesting to see who's behind it. If it's going to be like the Jackal again, or if it's going to be somebody else that has a problem with Spidey. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be fun though.
But don't you think he has freaking mental problems? Because it's like, okay, I've already seen Gwen Stacy die. She's been a clone. She's come back. She's died multiple times after that. Then we wind up getting like freaking Gwenpool that comes around. Doesn't that cause him problems too? And then don't forget, we
Yeah,
get Spider Gwen that comes around where she's like Gwen Stacy when he was a kid. That's the age that she is. Like, doesn't he? Can he never truly get over Gwen Stacy? Like, how does he separate that?
yeah. I don't know. I think Peter's a walking mental health issue. It just he we already know that Peter like carries everything on his shoulders, everything on his sleeve. He's like constantly in turmoil over everything. He's
Right.
that's the kind of personality that he is, and I think that's why I relate to him because I'm a lot like that. I'm like always worrying about everything and all that kind of stuff. So he's very relatable in that way. So he's like a lot of people, I think. So I think he's every time he comes in contact with somebody like this, and he's had so many of his family members come back from the dead and different versions of themselves and everything. I don't know how the dude's still standing, honestly.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah.
Oh man. but I'll pick it up for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm gonna grab it and definitely cover it. It's just something that's I think it could be fun, and it's just a way to introduce a brand new character. I think into whether it's Gwenpool's universe or Spider-Man's universe. It's I'm sure it will be a new enemy for freaking Spider-Man, and it's another like purple like character. So maybe him and what's his name can team up. Ben Riley, which is Chasm. Maybe they can
Chasm,
team
yeah.
up with the team of purples. Maybe even with the Prowler. He wears purple too, so they can be the purple people eaters.
We'll just have the evil Spidey family versus the good Spidey family. We'll just do it that way. Right.
Oh,
Plus
man.
Kate Bishop's in purple, so we got we're gonna have purple versus purple. So
Oh yeah, that's
yeah.
true, man. That's funny. All right, so yeah, we'll see what happens with all that. So there really wasn't that much news, and this one dropped most recently. And being that we had that original teaser come out last week, now we kind of get the revelation of what that was. So we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah.
So let's see here. Infamous Mike Manhattan says, even though he's not writing the book anymore, I saw someone on Twitter blaming Zeppo. Yeah,
Of course.
Oh man. So
I
all
believe,
right.
if I'm not mistaken, Cavan Scott, who's writing that, has done some of the Star Wars stuff.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna look up his credits real quick. I think I remember seeing his. Yeah, he's done a lot of the Star Wars stuff, like Star Wars Adventures, and he's done some DC stuff, some Doctor Who stuff, Power Rangers. So he's done quite a bit. But yeah, a lot of Star Wars stuff. So
Okay, cool. Tevi asked a question. He says, do you think this book will get rid of Paul? No. I
no,
think Paul is in the Venom book, and I think he's still Venom. I'm still going with that theory. That's my theory.
I think they're keeping Paul around just to mess with fans. I honestly think the more we hate on him, the more they're like, yeah, we're going to keep him around just for kicks. I honestly think that. Not even joking.
We'll see. I mean, you could be right. I mean, we'll see what
Yeah.
happens. We'll see what happens with it. All right, so we're going to switch it over to comics because there's a lot of comics to talk about. And this week's comic section is going to be a little bit different because there were so many books. I couldn't even come out with a top 5 because what if Paul's behind it? Yeah, he's the evil mastermind. He's the one that digs up the grave and resurrects Gwen Stacy.
He's like,
I can
leave
see
Mary
the
Jane
evil-
alone.
I can see the evil look on his face. He's like, oh, and his glasses are
He's
like
like-
hanging down. He's like, I'm going to get back at Peter. You
Right?
know,
Like,
MJ's
you'll
mine.
never go.
You'll never have
Yeah.
MJ. Take Gwen Stacy.
Exactly. That would be hilarious.
Anyway, like I said, I couldn't even come up with the top 5. Usually I can always do it, but I literally had like 10 books that were so solid that could be in my top 5 any day of the week. I read 27 comic books this week. It's the most I've read in quite a while. It was quite the struggle. Not really getting through reading the comic books, but doing my After the Pull series, man. That was a beast of a video to do.
I bet.
And let me tell you, there was a lot of like books that I rated like A+, and even some of the new number 1s were really good. So I struggle. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the comics, and then we're going to run down kind of like our list of what our favorites were once we get done talking about the books. So I think we're going to do it with that. So let's talk about One World Under Doom. So new event that came out from Marvel this week. And I actually liked the book. I have no idea what you thought, but I thought it was a good kickoff to kind of see what Dr. Doom's plan is here and how the Fantastic Four are involved and how the Avengers tried to actually get a jump on Doom and it backfired on them. And I don't know. I actually liked the book. It was pretty good seeing the confidence of Dr. Doom. And was it the best book I ever read? No, but I did think it was kind of off to a decent start, and I'm very curious to see the direction of it.
Yeah. And before I answer, I just want to thank all 50 of you watching right now. That's really awesome. 53 now. It's going up. So appreciate you all being here with us, even without Cat.
Absolutely.
um, but yeah, One World Under Doom is actually the first book I read, I think, or at least one of the first couple, because I was excited about it. And yeah, I really liked it. I like you said, not the absolute best book I've ever read or the best event opener that I've read, but I really enjoyed the story and I liked kind of the direction that they went. I thought I had a few little nitpicks about it, but overall, I like that Doom outsmarted everyone and kind
Yeah.
of, took over the world, like literally. And it wasn't like this dream state. It wasn't like a rewriting of reality. It was actually happening. So that's not what I expected at all. So they kind of swerved to me a little bit with that. So I appreciated it. And I'm curious to see, where it goes from here for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like how the Fantastic Four were involved, and you had the Johnny Storm and Spider-Man moments, which you don't
Yeah.
see all that much anymore. And it,
Right.
it was pretty good. So it definitely will be continuing it. Let's hope it
Yeah.
continues to improve and not decline. That's
Yeah.
what we'll have to see.
The one major nitpick I had was that you have like Tony Stark and Reed Richards, and none of these intelligent people could figure out that Doom was 10 steps ahead of them. Like I thought they could have been a little bit more, on the ball with it.
Sure.
It just seemed like they were like, oh, we can stop him just like that. And, not, it's Doctor Doom. He's like the most intelligent villain in the Marvel universe, right?
Yeah.
So,
And now he's Sorcerer Supreme. So it's kind of
yeah.
like it makes him even stronger, you know?
Yeah.
And they kind of went in there like headstrong, thinking they could come out outsmart him. So,
Mhm.
all
Absolutely.
right. So that's cool. So we both like that one. So let's talk about Absolute Batman issue 5. Issue 4 was more like an origin story. You got the different artwork on there. Now we got the regular artist that's back. This one was very intense with a lot of action as we get to see the party animals, which is Black Mask, go against Absolute Batman. There was this deal in place where he's going to pay Batman a ton of money to back off. And we thought that was going to happen. Alfred thought that was going to happen. And Batman was like, hell no. His whole plan was to freaking burn the money the whole time and just go out there and kick ass and take names, but kind of backfired him at the end of it. And they wound up prevailing, the Black Mask gang. But man, what a fight that was throughout the issue. Totally
Yeah.
intense.
Yeah, it was an intense fight. That was fun to watch and fun to read. I think, watching the action and everything break down like that. But the thing I really liked about this issue was that this issue, more than any other, has really shown the difference between this version of Batman and the main, universe Batman, because without losing both his parents and going across the world and doing all that stuff, his perspective's different. And
Yeah.
even though like the lead up to this showed like a Batman that we know, a Batman that's on top of everything, that's, inspiring fear in everyone, is outsmarting everyone. But this version is like, you see the naivety, you see the youngness, the inexperience, and that he's not as well-rounded as
Yeah.
the Batman that we come to know. So,
Yeah.
and it
He's
backfired, like you
careless.
said. So, yeah.
Yeah, he's very careless. He
Mhm.
relies on something that normal Batman doesn't. He relies pretty much on his brute strength to kind of take out, and he's overconfident, and he thinks he's young, so he thinks he's like unstoppable and untouchable.
Yeah, exactly. I also like the Black Mask made a comment about the ugliness of the bat.
Oh
the,
yeah,
the logo.
yeah,
Yeah.
on
So
the
that's
bat
one ugly
signal.
bat.
Yeah, that was hilarious, man. Oh,
Yeah,
it's great. Yeah, excellent book. I really, really like that book. Got back
yeah,
on track on that one.
for
All
sure.
right, and then we got Transformers issue 17. So lots going on in this book, but I
Yeah.
I still like all of it that happens. Like you still got Optimus Prime dealing with this like struggles of seeing these crazy images and losing control, which I think has to do with the Megatron arm. You wind up
Mhm.
seeing them go after freaking Ultra Magnus, the freaking dude has completely lost it. He's built like his own like Cybertronian like base, and it's just like this heap of shit, and they're just kind of like lost. And you got Bruticus and Devastator going at it with each other as they're
Tearing
still
up
fighting.
Seattle. Yeah.
What's that?
Tearing up Seattle. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was just absolutely insane. And then you got the other big thing that happens. This is a spoiler, I'm gonna tell you.
Yeah.
Where we get Cliff Jumper on there with Alita 1, you got Blades, and you got all those other characters up there, and they find these sparks from the fallen comrades, and they take it to this creation chamber or whatever it is, and they use it to create a brand new transformer known as Shred Head. And so when I saw that, I was like, no way. And it's Carly's van. That's what it is.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Because when I
Okay.
looked at it, I was like, it looks like the van. I'm like, look at the designs. I'm like, you can see it on there. And I'm like, I know it's the van. It has to be the van. It's black. It's got the
Yeah.
lines on there. And it's
Right.
called Shredhead. And it's like, it's a total Daniel Warren Johnson thing to do because
Yeah.
he's very much into like heavy metal and all that stuff. And so to name him Shredhead, and I was just
Yeah.
like, this is freaking great, dude.
I don't know if you read his comments after the issue in the back, but he talks about this, how this was in his sketchbook for a really long time, and they've been talking about this since they started talking about doing Transformers and all this stuff, and how he's played guitar since he was a kid and all this stuff. And so I thought that was pretty cool. And being able to, because we all have those kind of fantasies, we all have those kind of creations in our head or whatever. So him being able to live that out and actually create it in canon for the Transformers, I think is pretty cool. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to respect that. So
yeah, absolutely, really, really cool, and I can't wait to see him like in action in the next issue. So
absolutely,
great stuff, great book, loved it. All right, so then we're going to go down the line here. We're going to go to Eddie Brock Carnage. Did you read this one? Yeah,
I did. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So Eddie Brock Carnage. Actually, I don't know if you like this, but I liked it. I thought it was really good. It actually surprised me. I didn't think it was going to be as good as it was. It's the same artist too that did the most recent Jason Aaron Punisher series. So that's who did the artwork in there.
Yeah, it was really good art.
And Eddie Brock, it's kind of interesting to see Eddie Brock deal with the Carnage symbiote in his head. And you see how sick and sadistic and just like crazy it is, and causing and constantly saying, I need to kill somebody. I need to do this. I need to do that. Like, it's just totally insane. And the deal that he has with them is totally crazy too, where it's like, okay, we can kill, but it can only be serial killers. So you get your fix. And then the Carnage symbiote sits there and goes, okay, you can be my host. And it's just like, but I know you miss having a symbiote. I know you miss being the King in Black. So this kind of helps you with that fix. So it's kind of interesting to see like how the two are going to work together here. So I liked it. I thought it was good. I'm curious on who the main bad guy it is that they're going to go after at the end of this.
Yeah. So real quick, Tevye asked when he got the Carnage symbiote. So it was at the end of that last little event where they're both dying. Like, Carnage symbiote's dying, Eddie's dying, and they made that deal to come together. So that's when that happened.
It was at literally the very end.
Oops. Sorry. Trying to it scrolled on me and I hit the wrong thing. Anyway, yeah, this one surprised me too. I didn't think I would like this. I don't read a lot of the Venom stuff, and every time I try it, I fall off of it. And I didn't understand, like a lot of the viewers here, why all of a sudden Eddie Brock's now Carnage and all this stuff. But the way that they did it, and the way they explained it, and the way they explained the deal between them, like you just detailed, made sense to me. And it fit. It worked in the context of this particular story. Whether long term it'll be a thing, if it'll continue to make sense and be good, I don't know. But for this issue, I thought it made sense, and it played out really well. I love the inner struggle between the two, and him blacking out and not knowing exactly what the Carnage symbiote did and if those people survived or not, I thought was brilliant.
Yeah.
And it just adds more conflict between the two. So, he's dealing with like whoever's in his ear kind of leading the way, whoever's the villain in this, and dealing with the Carnage symbiote as well. And then, of course, we're going to have to address his absence from his kid's life at some point too. So there's a lot to unpack there going forward. So, I got my fingers crossed that it'll continue to be good.
Yeah. I liked it. And people are saying, well, what happened to Cletus? And Cletus actually just walked away. He didn't want anything to do with Carnage anymore. And so he just kind of went on his own, and those two just didn't see eye to eye anymore. But Carnage needed a host. And it happened to be Eddie Brock, because without the host, he was going to die. So
and just to address that comment I just showed, I wouldn't say it's praise that we're giving. I'd just say it was better than we expected it to be, and we'll see where it goes, kind of thing. So
yeah, I mean, listen, it's sometimes your Carnage books are going to always be hit or miss. There's been a lot of miss when it comes to Carnage books, right? And so after this first issue, I thought it was really good and definitely considers a second issue. There seems to be some decent thought here when it comes to this book. So
but if it's not your thing, cool. That's all I was gonna say. If it's not anybody's thing, that's cool.
Yeah, and
that's the great thing about comics.
Yeah, and that's what it is, and that's why we all have these conversations, and that's why you're here watching. If you don't like it, totally awesome. That's fine too. No one's saying that you have to buy these things.
No,
we just giving our thoughts and opinions, and then if you follow our advice and you go for it. Sometimes you like something, sometimes you don't. All right, so then we're going to go with another new number one. We got Green Lantern Corps issue 1. Did you get around to reading it?
Yeah, I read it really quick, but I think I got it. Yeah, I got it good enough. So, I liked this issue a lot. There wasn't a whole lot that was going on, and it was a lot of kind of setup, but the way that they came about the decision that they're going to personally approach people to become Green Lanterns, I thought was a nice twist and something that we haven't seen before. So I like the way that played out.
Yeah. I mean, I thought this was a great introductory issue for people trying to get to learn who the Corps is and who the characters are. Kind of gave you a status quo of what's going on with them. Even gave you like Sinestro in the book, which was cool. And so all those different elements was pretty solid. I don't think it was a perfect book, but I did like it a lot, and definitely looking forward to the future of the Green Lantern Corps books. So
I like Sinestro being a Green Lantern. That's interesting. I mean, we've seen it before, sure, but I don't know, because of everything that's happened and where they are now, getting them all to work together with Sinestro and kind of trying to keep him on a tight leash, I think is going to be really interesting as we go forward. And we're getting all the Green Lantern Corps, which I love. We haven't had that in a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I agree with the Sinestro aspect of things. Like, he is the wisest one there is, right? So it's kind of those things where he's going to speak his piece. He's going to do what he wants to do. And how long does that, how much patience do the Corps have before they kind of get fed up with him,
Yeah.
So, all right. So that was a pretty cool book. So let's go on to Bug Wars, issue 1. So we talked about this one last week about how we were kind of anticipating this one, where it's just like a story about this kid who shrinks down into the backyard. And this book was quite interesting because it's this whole world that takes place in this backyard. There's all this like Conan Trojan fighting shit between beetles and flipping ants and all this stuff. And then it starts off, and then it goes to the real world. They're like, the great storm is coming, and it's a freaking kid mowing his freaking grass. And it was just funny. I was just like destroying everything. But the overall story was interesting because you got this family that moved back to their like father's childhood house, and this is where he discovered that he liked bugs, and this was his career. And the youngest son is taking kind of following in his footsteps, and his brother had PTSD because he found his father dead in the basement. And
Oh
then it's
man.
just like something happens in the book to where the boy shrinks down to Bug's size, and now all of a sudden he's like part of this group. So I'm curious to see what
Yeah.
happens in here.
And also, it had like elements of like John Carter from Mars, because when he gets down there, he's got super strength. So the way John Carter of Mars, if you're not familiar, was when he went to Mars, because he's from a different world where gravity works differently. He was stronger than everybody else there, and he could leap like. So that's the way this kid is, because he's human. He's really strong down there. So I think that's really interesting. I like that aspect of it. They show the visual of the kid finding his dad later in the issue, which was brutal.
Yeah,
The way
man.
that he died, oh my god. And understandably why he hates bugs.
Yeah.
um but yeah, this was a lot more interesting. I mean, I thought the concept was interesting, but the more I read it, I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. When it first started off, I was like, oh, okay, it's a bunch of bugs fighting each other, whatever. But
Right.
when we got into the meat of the story, it was like, okay, this is something that I could stick with. And then at the end, Jason Aaron gives a little details about like where the story came from, and like he actually lived on a place like this, and his whole backyard was his adventure, and he would sword
Yeah.
fight and all this stuff as a kid. And he loved like the littles and stuff like that, the borrowers, and I was like, man, I loved like the littles and stuff. Like I ate
Yeah.
that kind of
Yeah. I
stuff up.
remember that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
had imaginary friends when I was like really little, and they were basically the littles, and they were living in my
Uh-huh.
wall and stuff like that. So this was like that made me like the story anymore, even more. It was what the point I was getting to. But
Right.
yeah, it
And
was really good.
you got to love that imagination. And I think that's
Yeah.
so cool. And then he draws the map in the back, like of the house in the backyard and everything of where everything
Hmm.
is. Really cool. Now here's my thing about this. I have no idea where this story is going to go. And
Yeah.
it's good. I like when a book is unpredictable like that, but I hope it doesn't get away from the human element of the story.
Yeah.
Because when we started off with ants fighting beetles, I was like, okay, I'm like, kind of like you, where are we
Exactly.
going to go
Yeah.
with this? And then when
Right.
you got to the human element, I was like, oh, okay, now it totally makes sense. So hopefully, like, the family wonders, hey, where is so and so? What happened to him? And can this kid become big again where he still lives with the family? Or are they going to be searching for him? Like, hopefully, it just doesn't completely forget about the mom and the brother here going forward.
Yeah. I would think honestly that the older brother's going to get the blame somehow, like for him disappearing and all this stuff. And I think we're going to see some tension between the family for sure. And I agree with you though. I hope we don't get lost in that other world, and we do kind of go back and forth, because that is the meat of the story. Is the best part, is that character work between that family. So
Right. What
yeah,
makes you
absolutely.
think the dad's still alive in this bug world, though?
I mean, he didn't look very alive. So
No, but he could become something else.
I mean, it's possible. I mean, it's very possible. Maybe there's some way to trans. Maybe it's a transference kind of thing, as opposed to he shrunk. We don't know
Right.
yet, so we'll have to
Right.
see how that played out. So yeah, it could
Yeah.
just be like that. What his son found could just be like an empty carcass. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
He could have transferred himself down there. Who knows?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's so curious about that. There's a lot of
yeah.
potential with that story. So I'm excited. So we'll see what happens there. Okay, so let's go on here. We're gonna go on to oh god, the Amazing Spider-Man issue 67. So there's nothing happens that in this book. It's like
Well, the blight. The blight. We're supposed to respect the blight now. It's
it's
more of the
just
same.
it's
Yeah.
more of the same. It's like, okay, so in order for Spider-Man not to die right away, we need to stall a couple of issues where he's just depressed and sad and just going
Yeah.
to hang out on the couch when he has a responsibility to do. And it's just frustrating. And you see freaking Doctor Strange try to convince him, and he doesn't convince him, and it's just like more of the same. You get the X-Men fighting his battle for him, and it just seemed more like an X-Men book more than anything. Obviously, the relationship between him and Black Cat are not there. He spent the night at her house, had a one-night hookup, and that was about it there. It just didn't accomplish anything. It just I don't know. It just has its wheels turning.
You did have the X-Men in here only to show how powerless Juggernaut is against these guys. I think that was the whole purpose of them being there.
Yeah.
It was just like, okay, so we're not convinced these guys are powerful enough, so we got to show you. Yeah, it was the only thing that really progressed here again was that one sibling getting the blight, and so now we've got this other threat, which I assume is going to lead to this whole pact kind of being thrown out because now the thing that they've been trying to prevent all along is out anyway. So what's the point in the fight and all this stuff? So I think that's where we're going with it. But I agree with you. It's just like this. It's not as bad as some of the stuff we got previously, but it's still not the Spider-Man stuff that I want to read. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I don't know, man. I thought this one would be a little bit cooler than it is, but it's
right.
been very repetitive. And
Yeah,
again, I think they just said, Joe Kelly, you're going to take over the title. We need a story for a placeholder while you're creating your run on Spider-Man. And I think they were just like, okay, well, we're going to get Joe Kelly and what is it? What's her name? The co-writer of this story? Is it Justina Ireland?
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah. And you guys are going to work on this story, and you're just going to have something here for a month or two, and that's that. I don't think there is any real thought behind this one. So there's that. And then we're going to get 68 where he dies, and then you got to get a 68-point deaths again. So
of course.
yeah, you still got that before. Oh my god! All right, move on. Aquaman issue 2. So this book is good. I'm not sure what's going to happen with Aquaman in here.
Yeah.
He goes through this gateway. He goes to this like other world. He fights this possessed girl by the name of Jenny, and it all seems like it's related to like almost like a Swamp Thing because there was like mentioned like the green, the red, and
And
the
now the
blue.
blue.
Yeah. And I never ever heard of the blue mentioned before. Have you?
No, I think that's a new thing. So we're adding the blue to the others, which I think is interesting. It could definitely open things up for a lot of stories in the future if it sticks around. But yeah, definitely Swamp Thing vibes here, like Swamp Thing, Poison Ivy kind of mashup almost, but like draining the blood of people just to get the water.
Just to get the water because there was no water there.
Right, exactly. And also, Aquaman seemed to know the guy that he rescued, which was interesting. Like he's a
Did
former
he say
king
he
of
was
Atlantis.
like the former king or something like that?
Yeah. So I don't know like where that comes from. If we're going to see more people from the main DCU that have gone through this gate and ended up in this place. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen either, but I do think it's interesting. And now there's this prophecy where Aquaman is prophesied to be this, I forget what they call it, but this dark tide, maybe.
Dark tide. Yeah.
Yeah. So interesting read. I just like you. I don't know where it's going.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a little lost by the time I got to the end of it. I'm like, what?
Right.
So what did this issue like really accomplish? Just letting me know that it's like a Swamp Thing book in many ways. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it was very creepy in a way. Like I love the artwork in this book, and I just like how Aquaman just seems like very like intense, and I think I like that a lot actually.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So let's talk about Geiger issue 11. So
another good book.
Oh my God, this was so good. So we get to the new place, and we find out who this Ashton is. I think that was the name, and we find out that and we find out it's not a he, it's a she, and it's like a female version of Tyreek, and she's came across the same scientist, and she experienced the same issues. He cured her, and now she's trying to cure him, but he doesn't want to get cured the way that it's administered, because I think it reminds him of when he had cancer and all the
Yeah.
tests and everything that he's gone through, and how
Yeah.
angry he was. So he just didn't want to be someone's patient. He didn't want to deal with that. So it was very tough seeing that struggle. And I hate how angry he gets, because it's like I
Hmm.
feel bad for the other characters because they love him, and
Yeah.
he goes off the handle. So like I really feel bad for Nate. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then also when it comes to what's his name? Joe, Junkyard
Yeah.
Joe.
Junkyard
And he
Joe. Yeah.
Yeah, and he kind of something goes wrong with his programming, but then the animals come to his side and they console him. I was like, "Oh man, I love that scene." I was like, "That is so
Yeah.
good." And then when Tyreek tries to leave, he's like, "Barney, come on." And Barney's like, "Hmm?" He's like, "I don't want to leave." So there's
Right.
so many good things that happen in this book.
Yeah, absolutely. Just real quick, yeah, I think somebody already answered it, but Rook is on break right now. Yeah, I
Yes.
don't remember when it's supposed to come back, but
I think it's
um,
spring. I think it
yeah, I
was.
think so. Yeah. So yeah, this was really solid, and we did flash back to him like dealing with the cancer and stuff, and that's like that resonates with so many people, right? I've lost people to cancer. My mother-in-law is constantly struggling with it right now, so it's something that's very relatable, and you can understand where he's coming from with all the tubes and everything, and doesn't want to deal with all that. But I agree with you. I felt so bad for Nate, especially when he gets so angry, but it seems like there's actually people here that want to help him, and he just, for some reason, whether it's his pride or his ego or his fear or all of the above, he can't accept it. But then we have Junkyard Joe's like maker coming for him, and he's gonna come into the mix as well. I thought it was interesting when Ash learned the truth about the guy that the doctor and all that stuff. So, or the scientist, whatever he was. But
Right.
yeah, just this is a really good book, and I'm still surprised how much I like this book, and how like endearing these characters are. So it
Yeah.
just keeps getting better and better.
Yeah, absolutely. I always like even one character like dies or something happens, I'm going to be
Yeah,
upset, because I love all the characters. Even when they always introduce a new character, I'm like, I like this guy. I like her. I like the
yeah,
animals. I like all these elements.
yeah.
So it's so good, man. I absolutely love it. All right. So now we're going to go to X-Men issue 11. So here we have the X-Men are in Alaska. There's an attack. And we find out that Corsair is there, which is Cyclops' dad, and he's there
Yeah.
to warn Cyclops. And Cyclops thought at first they were going after his dad, but they're really going after him. Um, and I don't know. I mean, that's kind of it. That's all I got really out of that. Oh, and they get Alpha Flight at the end of the issue, so you wind up getting
Yeah.
them making their appearance here too. Listen, I thought it was fine. I mean, this book does not blow me out of the water. I personally think Cyclops is so angry all the time in this book for some reason that
Mm.
he doesn't listen. And I think that's what gets him into problems in this comic book. And that's kind of frustrating to me. I mean, he's supposedly the leader, and yet he's kind of going into things like headstrong, a little bit maybe egotistical. And again, it's getting him in trouble. So that's the way I
Yeah.
look at it. Not a bad book, but just not my favorite either.
Yeah. I get that. I totally get that. And I agree. I think that's why he has Magneto with him, to kind of balance that out, which is really odd to think that, Magneto's the one that grounds Cyclops.
Right.
It's kind of a twist on things, but um I still like this version of Cyclops, even if he is angry, just because everything we've seen with him before, whether he was the Boy Scout and then he was like the zealot that was just like evil mastermind kind of guy, and now he's kind of, you know, in the wake of Krakoa and in all the stuff with Professor X, he's got a lot on his mind, and then his wife's off in space, and it's just, you know, it's weighing on him, and I think we're seeing that, and he's breaking down because of it. But at the same time, what I do like about this book is the team that we were like questioning, why are all these people on a team together? I think it makes more sense now. I think they interact well together. I think their banter between each other and just they feel more like a family now. I think it's grown, and you know, it's kind of found its footing in that way, at least. But aside from all that, yeah, there wasn't a whole lot that happened. You explained pretty much the plot in like 30 seconds.
Right.
But it is interesting why they're after Cyclops. I want to know why. And I want to know, like, there were people from like the Shi'ar and different alien races together.
Right.
And I'm curious why they, you know, are after Cyclops. So interesting, but not the best book, but yeah, it was good.
Right. And then the interesting thing is they highlighted Hank when he's working with that other mutant who was like that aquatic mutant or whatever. And then he's figured out that she can morph into other things. So she could fly. So I was like, oh, wow. And then she's like, do you think I could change back into a human? And he's like, well, we'll have to figure that out and find out.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of cool. So like,
yeah,
here is a thing that I will put out there. So Uncanny X-Men frustrates me because there's too many new characters. I don't mind if you introduce a character and then you kind of focus that on that character. So like the way X-Men just did it here, where there's one character, you highlight that character every so often, or you learn a little bit about that character within the book, then it's fine. But when you introduce 3 or 4 new characters, now all these characters are fighting for panel time. The old crew, the new crew, and all that stuff. So I like how they did that at the beginning of the book. And then it's like, okay, let's go on to the main story, you know?
Yeah. And I totally get that. I do like the new characters in Uncanny X-Men, and maybe they're going to be killed off one by one. We don't know. But I totally get your point with that. I also like the fact that because of Beast's history with his own, you know, transformation and wanting to be normal and stuff, that now he's dealing with someone that could possibly do that and what that might do to him and all that kind of stuff. I think that's interesting to play with as well. So there's definitely some things to pick up on in this book for sure.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so now let's move on to Black Lightning. I didn't read this book.
I didn't read it either.
Okay, so then we'll pass. Let's go on to a book that was another one that was so good.
Oh man.
Oh man, we got Feral issue 10. Such an interesting book. I mean, you got the cats trapped in the freaking cat hoarder house, and the woman, excuse me, you think is possibly dead. She's by the door. The cats are trying to they're trying to escape and whatnot. And they're like, I'm hungry. We need to eat. And excuse me, I'm like, got my throat needs to clear. And they're like, well, what are we going to do? They start eating the freaking lady. They start taking chunks out of They're going to get sick.
Yeah, exactly.
They're going to get rabies because she
All
is sick. Yeah. And then the lady winds up living after that. She gets up. And this book is like classic horror movie, like the villain or the murderer doesn't die, right? They come back alive. Yeah. And all I heard in my mouth was like, or in my mind was like this crazy cat lady's voice. I hear it's like bad kitties, like this horrific, like
just kind of on autopilot. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just like, oh my God. And then the freaking car accident happens, flips over. What happens to the cats? What's going to go on after this? I mean, what did you think?
Yeah. I mean, and also Patch comes in at the end too. And it's like, what is Patch doing there? What's going on? Like, is there, can they be saved or something? Is Patch still in there somewhere? I don't know, but I think Elsie or Ellie, whatever her name is, was the only one that didn't eat.
Yeah, she just smelled. She just smelled. Yeah.
Yeah, so now it's like all these cats are gonna die. Lord too. Elsie's the only one's gonna be left. And I just thought it was interesting because they were like the other lady with the kittens. She was like, or the other cat lady. She was like,
Gigi.
yeah, Gigi. She's like, Elsie, you don't know anything. You're not in charge anymore. Then as soon as things go south, you're in charge, Elsie.
You're in charge, yeah.
You know what to do. But the lady, she's like, bad kitties go in the cage. Bad kitties go to the pound.
It's so bad, man. I was just
Oh
like,
man.
and she's like driving all over the place, and she's like, I
Yeah.
can't see. And then she's like turning on the lights, and she's sort of, oh my gosh, dude.
And then,
This
like,
is
when they get
insane.
into the main part of the house, like, all the other cats are just dead, and you see
Oh.
pieces. Oh, it's so brutal. Oh my god.
And Elsie
This
couldn't look
is
away because she was like, bad kitty wears cone. And so she's like
yeah,
wearing a cone, and she sees nothing
yeah,
but all the dead cat parts everywhere.
right. Oh man, it was so perfectly horrific, I guess is the way to describe it. But yeah, it's such a good book. Such a good
Yeah,
book.
absolutely. All right, so let's talk about All New Venom issue 3. So we're starting to narrow things down. We know it's
Mhm.
not Luke Cage. We know it's not Madam Mask now, right?
Yeah.
So now it's between Rick
Rick
Jones
Jones
and
and Robertson.
Robertson
Yeah.
and Paul.
And
That's
Paul.
because
Yeah.
Paul's not listed, but I still think it's Paul. And you wind up getting the symbiote who acts like a father figure to Dylan when
Dylan.
he's
Yeah.
there, right? And so you can understand the symbiote being that way because they were bonded. But you have Paul, who is, I'd say it's Paul. You have the hosts who is acting like a, that way as well. And Paul
Yeah.
is trying to be a father figure to
Yep.
Dylan. So again, to me, it might be a clue. And it's just kind of funny how Dylan runs into Paul at the end of that issue as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree with your reasoning there. And I think that's a good guess as to who it is. And also we kind of joked about it before that it would be hilarious if it was Paul because of, Mary Jane's history with Venom and all that stuff. But it's starting to make more sense in the story that it could be Paul. And I don't know. Dylan seems to be convinced it's Rick Jones, but we'll see how that goes going forward. But I like this book, man. It's fun, and it's about time that we had a good fun Venom book.
Yeah,
But
it's like a 180 compared to what the last one was.
yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
I like how it's more grounded. I like how Dylan is involved, but you still got Venom in there. I like the villains in the book. Like you got Chance in there, which was kind of cool. Like I like all that stuff. And then at the end, you get MODOK, who's involved, and
Yeah.
he's working with Madame Mask to take down the director of AIM. So there's just a lot of stuff in there that just, I don't know, man. It's cool. Definitely different, and it's improved. So I'm happy that Al Ewing kind of like scaled things back a little bit. Didn't make things so like he can totally make things very convoluted and just
Yeah.
not way over your head. And so made like a normal story for once.
Yeah, this is definitely a different style of writing for Al Ewing too. So I appreciate, flexing the creative muscles with this one as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so then we got Batman and Robin issue 18. I'm still trying to get back on track with this book. It's the second issue I read in a row. I'm not
Yeah.
really familiar with like who Memento actually is. Like what is that villain's like real purpose in this book? Now, what I did like about it is I did like Damian and Batman's rift here. Like, it's like a mission happens. He's talking to Jason Todd on the radio. He tries to cut in and he's overhearing the conversation. He doesn't like what he hears. And then it kind of leads to them splitting apart. So that
Yeah.
aspect of the story I like, the artwork I like, but I'm not sure on who Memento is. Can you tell me who he actually is?
Yeah. So Yeah, I'll tell you that, and then I'll give my thoughts on the rest of it. But yeah, Memento is this serial killer that Bruce Wayne, when he was studying abroad and everything, and he was in like Scotland Yard or whatever, and under assumed name, um, his teacher and him and the girl, the cop that's there now, she was there as well, and they were hunting down this Memento killer, and supposedly they found him. It was their teacher was accused of being him, and then he died in prison. But now they're thinking that it wasn't him, and the real Memento lived and escaped, and is now back wreaking havoc or to get revenge on Bruce Wayne or something. Don't know exactly why he's there now, but that's where he comes from. It was from his past.
And Scarecrow is involved in this too, because there's like toxins and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know where Scarecrow comes in to it, but yeah, somehow Scarecrow's involved. That's what Damian was investigating. Somehow they're using a version of his fear gas, but it seems like, if what I remember from a couple issues back, somebody else was using Scarecrow's lab, so they don't know if it's Memento or if he's got help or what else. Somebody's using his tech and his lab equipment and everything to create some kind of version of the fear toxin. So that's what's going on with that. But yeah, I think the stuff with Damian was really interesting, especially because he stopped listening right when Bruce said the good stuff.
Yes.
And obviously, so here's only the bad stuff.
Yeah.
And leads to him deciding to no longer be Robin, which I think is really interesting. Because that's exactly what Bruce was afraid of, and that he would lose him because of that, which is the part that Damian didn't get to hear. So, yeah, really interesting story that they're telling between the father and son here, which is, I think, the best part of this story.
I agree. The way the story is told is really good. It's just kind of funny because recently we had Damian not be Robin and be just Damian once again. We've had that not too long ago, where their relationship was busted up and they got back together, and now it's kind of being separated again. So
yeah,
a little bit repetitive. I do like how that rift is. It seems kind of organic, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's just, again, a little bit of a repetitive storytelling here.
Yeah, I agree with that. I did also like the conversation with Red Hood, where he was telling Batman about their Harvey moments or whatever, where like Nightwing has like this thing with Harvey and stuff. And I like that Jason's wasn't being killed by the Joker, that it was some other random thing.
Yeah.
And, like, at first I was thinking, well, Damian's has got to be the Bane Alfred thing, right? But it could be something else. It could be something else entirely, which I think is really interesting. So
yeah, it's not a bad book. I just need to kind of keep going with it here.
Yeah, it's a lot to digest.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we'll move on to The Moon is Following Us. This is issue 6. I felt like this was a real pivotal point in the story, because everything that you're familiar with, or what our characters are familiar with in this world, it's not what it quite seems. It was all the setup, basically. And now you get Penny's nightmares that come in, which you think might be the enemies, but they're actually really the good guys trying to help. And it's kind of funny because like normal everyday items are the actual weapons that you need to use in order to succeed to hurt the creatures that are in this world. Because if you use the other weapons, they're not actually dead. It was so interesting to see that concept. So, and the act of betrayal that happened in here. So I actually like this issue. Is really good, better than the last issue.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I like just little things like the mom remembering Penny's saying like sharks don't ever die and that kind of thing. So obviously in her mind, they never die. And so they would, become a powerful weapon that you could use and all that kind of stuff. I thought that was really interesting. And the nightmare thing, it makes sense because without Penny, these nightmares aren't going to live either. So it makes sense that they would fight to keep her alive as well. But yeah, you had some really heartfelt stuff. Tash kind of, regretting his decision to kind of hurt them and everything, but at the same time, he's like torn because he wants to save his daughter, and all this stuff. So yeah, it was some complex stuff going on. It was but it was still fast paced. You got a lot of information, but it flowed really nicely. It was actually as much there as there was to read. I felt myself read it very quickly. So,
Mm-hmm.
it had a really nice flow to it. So yeah, it was a really strong issue for this series.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, so now um this is it. This is time. We didn't give our top 5 because we all have books in here um that are more than the top 5. So there's
Yeah.
one book I want to talk about that I'm going to recommend to a lot of people that I don't know, but there's
Okay.
one book that I did read was called Those Not Afraid. Um
Okay.
this is issue 2. Um, this book is about a young woman who is a serial killer, like podcaster. Like she follows serial killers, murders, things like that. She talks about them. And back in the day, there was some crazy serial killers, and now there's copycat murders that are here, right? So she follows them, and one day these two serial killers actually meet up with each other, and they kind of become like friends, and they're having a competition against each other to see who can come up with the most murders. And you find out who these serial killers are related to, and you see this back and forth with each other. And in this particular issue, they both wind up getting arrested, which I didn't find that coming. I didn't see that coming. But it makes for a really interesting and just a different type of comic book. So I really liked it. I thought it was a nice surprise type of series that I didn't think was going to be any good. So I really enjoyed
That's
it.
cool. Yeah, I believe I read the first issue, but issue 2 is one of the books that I didn't get a chance to read this week. There was like 6 or 7 books I didn't get a chance to read before we came on live. So that's definitely one I'm gonna. Now
Oh
that you're
yeah,
recommending it too, it's definitely one I'm gonna stick with. So because I
yeah,
do remember
definitely.
liking that first issue. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a nice little twist going on in that book. So
Yeah.
okay. So I don't think I'm going to give you a particular order, but I'm going to name the books that I really like. So one was Bug Wars. That was a fantastic book. Absolute Batman would be in my top 5 any day, but it's more like top 10 this week. Feral issue 10 was like an A+ book for me. Geiger issue 11 was like an A+ book for me this week. Transformers issue 17 was another one of those A+ books. Um, Eddie Brock Carnage, honestly, this first issue surprised me. So I was like, this is for Marvel. That's really good. Those Not Afraid, which we talked about, another really good book. And this one book called Cam Girl, which was a one shot that came out this week about this girl that's a cam girl. You read about the true life of this girl, of what it was like to be in this situation, and
Hmm.
really freaking good story. I actually recommended it to Kat, and she read it, and I think she liked it. So, but really good. And if you include Aquaman in that thing, I'm like, oh, I got like 10 books there that could all be in my top 5 any day of the week. I mean, absolutely a lot of great comics this week.
Yeah, I did not get a chance to read Cam Girl. I was aware of it, but yeah, I don't know if it's quite my thing, but I might give it a shot because you know, I your recommendations are usually solid for me. So when you really like a book so much that you want to recommend it, I usually tend to check them out. So um my list is very similar. I mean, Absolute Batman, Aquaman, Bug Wars, the Eddie Brock book really surprised me as well. Geiger Feral. Um, One World Under Doom, I like Transformers. Moon is Following Us. Um, I actually like New Champions. I don't know if it would be in my top 5, but it would.
Right.
I definitely enjoyed the book, and I
Okay.
like the direction it's going. So, um, yeah, those are like the main ones I think that stood out to me this week as well. But
You know what
yeah, yeah,
what wind up I hating was like The Hive,
I
and
didn't get to read that one.
oh
Yeah,
good God. Did you buy it?
no, because I forgot
Oh,
about it
okay. Yeah.
altogether.
No, you don't need to read that. That is nonsense. I could
Okay,
not believe it. I was hoping it would be a really good book, right? And the first 2 pages were good, and then I'm like, then it opens up to like some sex scene, and then there's like an orgy scene, and then there's just some weird stuff that's just going on that you don't understand who these characters are. You would think that this is like an issue 5 type of situation.
Yeah.
I was like all over the place. These people have like mind control powers. Like I don't even know what the heck was going on in that book. So
Okay. Who writes
there was
that
that.
again?
Huh?
Who writes that again?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember
It's
either.
not anybody that I'm really familiar with, I think.
Yeah.
And then the other book, oh my gosh, was Deadpool Team Up. Did you read that?
No, I haven't been reading that one.
Okay. Well, that was the conclusion to that. And Rob Liefeld, you've done a lot for comics, but this book, my gosh, dude. Just the conclusion to this story was really like 1 page. And the rest of this book was like introducing you to these characters like you don't know who they are. He's like, I'm Wolverine. I'm the best that there is, And it's just like, oh, hey, look, I'm Cable. I'm a time traveler. And it's like, hey, I'm Lady Deadpool. And then you got Major X in there, right? So Major X makes his appearance. Guess what? He takes off his helmet. You know who he is? Rob Liefeld.
Of course he is. Oh my God.
It's so bad. It's so bad. I was like, so Major X has been Rob Liefeld this whole time.
So Rob Liefeld's still writing comics like he's 6. I don't know. I'm sorry.
No,
sorry to all the Rob Liefeld fans out there. No, not for me.
It was just rough. Like, listen, there's some stuff that he's great that came out with that he came out with that changed comics for life.
Absolutely.
Like X-Force. He did stuff on X-Men. He created, Deadpool. Like, there's so many great things that he's done, but there's a lot of things that he has done that are not so great either,
Yeah. So putting aside, complaints about the art style, no feet, pockets, all that stuff, putting all that aside, I was a Rob Liefeld fan back in the day. I was Jim Lee fan. I was a fan of all the Image guys, right? Like, they were just fantastic at the time. It was their time to shine, right? But it doesn't feel like his storytelling has evolved since then. And that's kind of the problem.
I think it declined. It's declined.
Yeah, so
because the way he writes now, it doesn't, he writes like he's 12. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, but when he wrote X-Force and when he wrote New Mutants, it was fine. It was fine.
Yeah. Well, he did have co-writers with that.
Yeah. Well, I guess maybe that helps, too. Right? So
yeah, Fabian Nicieza was a tremendous help to X-Force in particular.
Right.
So.
But yeah, and when you talk about the drawings, listen, all the drawings were 3-panel lines.
Yeah,
that's all they were in this Deadpool team up book.
I just want to know, go ahead, finish your thought, and then I'll say
So there was these 3-panel grids here, and all it was the character in a pose, and no backgrounds whatsoever, just colors. And then Spider-Gwen makes her appearance in this book. Looks just like Deadpool. The eyes are the same and everything else. And they show her web swinging. Where the fuck is she web swinging from? There's no buildings. They're in some weird like dimension, and you just see her web swinging off of nowhere.
I was just going to ask if characters just randomly appeared in screen, said, "I'm here too."
That's kind of what it was. It definitely was that. It was so comical,
classic.
man.
Yeah, classic. That's what when I read the first issue of, I think it was the Major X series. I read the first issue of that, and that's exactly what it was. It was like, just out of nowhere, these characters just start popping in, just for no reason whatsoever. Just, I'm here too. Let's fight.
Oh, that's so funny. I just picked it up because he said this is it. This is his last like Deadpool story or whatever it is. Yeah. So I was kind of like, well, why not check it out? I think he might want to have a fun series, and it just, I don't know. It started off okay. I'm not gonna lie. Like the first issue actually had some solid depth. Maybe the first two issues actually. Then there was a comical issue with the Hulk in it, which was funny. And then after that, it's just started going down from there. So
Yeah.
hey, it is what it is, man.
Yeah. I'm sure it
That's
sold
fine.
really well though. So,
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe not. I have no idea. All right, Brant. So you want to go on to the most anticipated for the week?
yeah, let's do it. Let me just pop that up there while I change screens. All right, so I'm gonna read off Kat's list real quick because we can talk about those too.
Yeah.
She's got Uncanny X-Men number 10 is her number 3. Um, we kind of talked about that book already, so we don't need to revisit that. Zatanna issue 1. I'm actually looking forward to that book as well. I'm excited about it, but I just that preview, I don't know how to feel about it because it's two different art styles, and
Hmm.
I don't know. The one art style I really like, the other one it's like I don't know where this is going, but
I
I'm curious
I
about it.
I would agree. I mean, I'm kind of like I loved the Black Label book that was out,
Yeah,
and it's like I would want more of that. So like I almost have my standards like that at this point, and it's like
right.
I'm afraid I'm going to be disappointed. But I'm going to
Yeah,
check it out. I want to read it. I want to know more about Zatanna, and hopefully I'll like it. That's all I can say.
yeah, absolutely. Then Exceptional X-Men, of course, is that's number 1. She really loves that book, and I like
Yeah.
it too. I know you don't, but you know it's Kitty Pryde, so I'm gonna read it. All right, so let's go on to ours. So I'll start with your number 3, Miles Morales Spider-Man. This is continuing from Deadpool this week, so it's the first part of the Miles side of the crossover.
Right.
So
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that. I mean, the last
yeah,
issue was kind of cool. We wound up seeing Miles team up with Ellie to try to take out Miles Morales Spider-Man. At first, that's what you thought, but then it wound up being Shift. And
yeah,
I thought that was interesting. And I felt bad for the poor guy, man. He got bullet wound and everything. And they're, they're and now it kind of triggered Miles, and these guys are fighting each other. And
yeah,
that was kind of cool. My only problem right now with, I would say, the Deadpool book, because of this Miles Morales crossover, is that we have a lack of what makes the Deadpool book good, which is the lack of Taskmaster. Dog Princess was his symbiote dog. And so now it's just, I think, going to only focus around Deadpool and Miles and Ellie. So,
yeah.
but nevertheless, I'm curious to see what Cody Ziegler does with all of these characters here, and how long is this fight going to last for?
Yeah, exactly. I I do think it's interesting that you have Deadpool and Ellie and Miles and Shift, so you have basically both of their doppelgangers. So I think that's kind of fun. But I don't know. I kind of like this I won't call it a relationship or whatever this thing is with Ellie and Miles. I think it's interesting. Like she's obviously crushing it, as we've seen from the past. And I like that in the Deadpool issue this week, Deadpool is like, you had a crossover with Spider-Man without me and all this. It was just fun
Yeah.
stuff, it's typical fun Deadpool stuff. And I like that. I like the reveal that it was Agent Cal behind all this because that's just hilarious, and it ties into Miles, and
Yep.
then random gun guy.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
it's fun stuff, so I'm looking forward to it. But I get your concern for sure. So my number 3 is the Herculoids issue 1 from Dynamite. I just want
No,
to see what this is all about.
dude.
Space Ghost
So,
is really good.
so
So
this
yeah,
was way up there on mine too.
yeah,
Okay. And the only reason why this dropped a little bit, but because people told me the art is very simplistic, not
okay,
as good as like you would be expecting, like something like from like Space Ghost, right? And that's why this kind of dropped for me, because that tends to be an issue with Dynamite Comics, is the art doesn't tend to be as solid. Um,
yeah,
Kind of like we noticed that with like Silverhawks or whatever it is, or even with
hmm,
Thundercats. But that's my concern about it. But I am excited, like you, with like for the story.
yeah, yeah. Hopefully it's good. I'm disappointed by the art because the art in Space Ghost is so like next level for that kind of character. It's just so good. So I was, hoping for something like that, but we'll see. I'm not going to write it off. I definitely want to check out the story and see if it's as good as some of the others. So, all right, we'll go on to my next one is Doom Academy. And this is basically, his version of Strange Academy. We're going to see some of those characters in it as well. So I'm excited to see what they do with it. I'm curious. I don't know. It's when other writers handle the Strange Academy kids, it's not always as good. So I'm a little hesitant, but still looking forward to it.
It's still good to see these kids hang around.
Yeah.
At least Marvel wants to keep them around. I
Right.
would love if Scotty Young came back to him though, just for another story. I would love to see that.
Absolutely. Completely agree. Then we got G.I. Joe is your next one, which is always in my top anything. So
right. Yeah, no, we're just gonna get the continuation of the Joes and Cobra fighting each other for this Cybertronian technology. At the end of the last issue, we wind up seeing the twins kind of make a quick, brief appearance. They were going after the scientist. What was it for? I totally forgot.
Was it for the brainwave scanner or?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's what it was. So I'm anxiously awaiting this issue and just to see how things continue to develop here. So really,
and I think Clutch learns the secret behind Cobra Commander or something like that.
Oh, okay.
So we'll see. Then we've got two X books, one in the Ultimate Universe and one otherwise. So we got Ultimate Wolverine, which we really like that first issue, is your number one.
Yeah, so, I want to know more about this version of Wolverine and more on how he was created. How is he going to continue to develop as a character? Is he going to be enemy? Is he going to be friend? Like there's a lot of unknowns of what's going to happen here. And, will you see that again, those memories come around, and does it create him to be more violent too on top of it? So
especially now that we know Sabretooth is coming too, it's like this is just going to get, I think it's going to get more complicated for him and more violent. So I'm here for it.
This could be a very dark series.
Yeah, for sure. And then Weapon X-Men #1, which it's my number one because I don't know what to expect with this book. It's under the One World Under Doom banner. So I'm curious to see what this team's mission actually is and how they work together to do it. Because you got some heavy hitters on this team.
Is this one like the X-Force book?
Yeah, it's like Wolverine, Deadpool, Cable, etc. So
yeah. I'm anxiously I'm awaiting this one too. Honestly, I'm gonna be a sucker and I'm gonna pick up all these freaking #1s for One World Under Doom.
I know.
Just because I'm covering it for Worthy Ones, and I just want to see at least what these things have to offer, and we'll see where it goes from there.
I am too. I'm curious about the Doom Strike one as well. So it's it is what it is. You and I are more suckers for that. Kat's like, nah, I ain't getting none of that.
Yeah, she's like one issue. No, it sucks. I don't like it.
Yeah. She's really, really critical these days.
Yeah, right.
I understand. She's so busy. She's got little time to read. I understand it, but
exactly.
You and I are just bigger suckers.
She just never liked events. I remember when we talked about Original Sin, and she never liked that book. She's like, "What is this Original Sin book with the eyeballs?" She's like, "I don't like the artwork in it." She's just like, "It's just not for me." And I was like, okay, that's totally fine. It's just funny because every event that comes out,
the only one that she was like really into was War of the Realms, I think. So
and that was way a long time ago, man. And that's funny because I wasn't into that one.
I know. I was because it was fantasy, but
right.
That's funny. But that's all I anticipated. Yeah,
that's it, and that's gonna wrap up the show. And it was a good show. We had a lot of good comic book talk, which I guess without having that much news, I guess there's a reason for everything, right? So we did talk about Dark Gwenpool. Remember, it's gonna be Gwen, but just dark. In
Yeah,
one Wolverine claw, and she's
Yep.
going to be kicking ass and taking names. So stay tuned for that coming soon. Tevye said King in Black was good. I agree. King in Black was
Yeah,
good.
it was.
I'm in the process of, I ordered that omnibus. I want that in my collection of omnibuses that I have.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you guys have a wonderful night. Have a great new comic book day tomorrow. Another pretty solid week ahead of us again. And as always, guys, if you like the video on your way out, please give the video a thumbs up. It definitely helps. Subscribe to Comic Book Weekly. Very important, because then you can watch every episode anytime that you want. Make sure you subscribe to Branch channel, Only Good Comics. He's got a good show that he has on Fridays called Friday First, so you can check that one out. And then, of course, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, go ahead and do so. Comic Book Corner 2.0, as I have weekly shows for you. I always bring you a video every single day. So hopefully you guys subscribe to that. And then, of course, hit that bell. So, guys, as always, have a wonderful night. Keep reading, keep collecting. Always read your comics so we can have great comic conversations just like we have right here today. And, guys, we'll see you all next week. Take care, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye.